Papa Day. Welcome to the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences and the inaugural lecture of the Philippine Studies Lecture Series. Have you heard this one? The mother is preparing breakfast and she doesn't hear any noise coming from her child's room. So she knocks on the door and says, "Is everything okay in there?" And the voice responds, "Yes, everything's fine, but I'm not going to school today, Mom." The mother says, "What do you mean you're not going to school today? Give me 3 good reasons why not." And the voice responds, "The teachers don't like me, the students don't like me, and I'm afraid of the teachers." And the mother responds, "Well, listen now, I'm your mother, and I'm going to give you 3 good reasons why you have to go to school today. First of all, school is very important. Secondly, the students and the teachers both need you. And third, you're the dean." Thank you for coming this evening. A new day is dawning for the college. 9 years ago, I was participating in a turnaround workshop. Asia Institute was providing a workshop that SGA had sponsored. And they were telling us to think inside the box and think outside the box, and how could we promote the University of Guam and turn the university around. And I started thinking inside the box and thinking outside of the box, and I knew that UH, my alma mater, had this program called CHAPS, the School of Hawaiian, Asian, and Pacific Studies, SHAPS. And I started thinking, we could beat that with CHOMS. We could have Chamorro Asian, Micronesian, Philippine Studies. Now that was 9 years ago. 9 years ago, what can I say? Institutions change very, very slowly, and public educational institutions are the slowest to change of all of them. But I'm happy to report that the committees are forming to begin a Chamorro Studies program and to form a Philippine Studies program at the University of Guam. And this really makes me happy. Thank you for coming, and Beth Samara will introduce the program to you. Dr. Samara?
Thank you, Dr. Salman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure for me to add my welcome to tonight's lecture, and we want to acknowledge our special guests in the audience. We want to thank our administration for supporting this. We have our president of the university, Dr. Underwood, our senior vice president, Dr. Helen Rippey. We also want to thank some members of the community who are here. One of our senators is here, Senator Jim Espaldon. And we want to welcome the Consul General of the Republic of the Philippines, the Honorable Lydia Palala. We also want to thank the Nueva Ecija Association, whose donation made this inaugural lecture of the Philippine Studies Lecture Series possible. And I would like to ask any representatives of the Nueva Ecija Association to please stand. The president is Tony Gradonia. I don't think they're here yet, but we thank them anyway. We also want to thank the University of the Philippines Alumni Association for supporting this. The president is Dr. Melu Meligan. And the Filipino community of Guam, whose president is Alex Gagaring, and we have the first vice president here, Leia Beth Naholoa. We also want to acknowledge Dr. Mary Spencer, the former dean of the college, who was a strong supporter of this event from its inception. We started talking about this last year. Oh, there she is. It was an informal committee of faculty members who got together to talk about this Philippine Studies idea and talk about possible speakers and a concept for the lecture series, and hopefully planning the rest of the idea of developing a Philippine Studies program. And I want to acknowledge those who are here tonight. Dr. Don Platt from History. We have Dr. Clarita from Linguistics. And we have some community partners. We have Dr. Clarita from Finance. And we have some members of the community. We have Dr. Fred Agtarab from the Pacific Islands University, Dr. Sama Bini Sousa, General Manager at PBS Guam, and Dr. Ray Sumera from Guam Community College. At this point, we would like to invite Consul General Palala to give some opening remarks, and she'll tell you she has a very special connection to our speaker tonight.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sumera, Dr. Carlos, Dr. Underwood, Dr. Selman, distinguished members of the Academe, ladies and gentlemen, mga kababayan. Good evening, magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat. I am pleased to join the organizers of this inaugural lecture in welcoming Dr. Clarita Carlos, a respected political scientist in the Philippines and a former teacher of mine in at least 2 of my political science classes during my undergraduate years while taking up foreign service at the University of the Philippines in Diliman way back in the 1970s. I also wish to take this opportunity to congratulate the Filipino faculty group of the University of Guam, particularly Dr. Lina Beth Sumera, for the efforts of the faculty in organizing this lecture series. At the same time that I wish to express the hope that this will not only be a regular annual event at the university, but even better, that the permanent Philippine Studies program, as mentioned by Dr. Selman, would be established at the University of Guam eventually, and hopefully quite soon. The fact that 36.7% of the students at this university are Filipino speaks for itself as a microcosmic reflection of the larger society that is Guam. The Philippines and Guam are so closely intertwined, historically, socially, and culturally. After all, both the Philippines and Guam are island populations that were discovered at about the same time, in 1521, and colonized by the same groups of people, one after the other, the Spanish, the Americans, and for a brief moment, the Japanese. If one looks back at the shared history of Guam and the Philippines, one would realize that Guam was a Spanish base for the Manila galleon trade and was once a part of the Archdiocese of Cebu in the late 1600s. When the native Chamorro population was decimated by fighting and disease, such that the original population of 200,000 was reduced to only 5,000 by the year 1741, the Spaniards imported Spanish soldiers and Filipinos to restock the population, marking the end of the pure Chamorro bloodline and the first infusion of Filipino blood into the Guam population. The signing of the Treaty of Paris in 1898 marked the beginning of the American era in Guam. At that time, Guam served as a way station for American ships traveling to and from the Philippines. The Americans brought over to Guam some of the Filipino revolutionary leaders who continued to hold out in the Philippines until they were ready to take their oath of allegiance to the United States of America. The most prominent among whom was Apolinario Mabini, who was also known as the Sublime Paralytic. But prior to that, the Spanish authorities exiled Melchor Aquino, who was also known